G'day fellow YouTubers. Today I am going to tear down this Invicta lithium. I've noticed a lot of people, well, I haven't noticed anybody do a tear down on one of these yet. So here I am today to do that. This is my first video uploading to YouTube, so bear with me. Right, so full disclosure, I brought these at a very good price. They were submerged in a flood, both this one and the one behind me. These are the 125 amp model, the non-Bluetooth, so they come in a standard model and the Bluetooth model. This is obviously just the standard. I have already pulled these apart just to clean them up and whatnot, check them out, see how they work. So you will notice some of the aluminium oxidization on the cell, so that's obviously not how they'll come brand new, so do keep that in mind. But so let's get on with the show. I will say I believe it's only the 125 amp batteries that can be pulled apart quite easily, so I won't have to cut into this, which is a good idea. Obviously you don't suggest you do it yourself if it's under warranty, because these do have a 7-year warranty, so pretty good. So obviously on the other side there is a sticker here, void if removed. Obviously mine's cut, but anyway. Right, so let's get started. At the top here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws that holds the lid on. Okay, so let's move this a little bit closer here so we can see what's going on. Right, so with the screws undone, one would hope. Well, it's not quite undone. There we are. Okay, so here we are, straight on top. So we've got your BMS here, which this one is capable of doing a minimum max constant charge of 85 amps and a max discharge of 95 amps constant. So not too bad for what they are. You got your decent thick wiring up here from your BMS down to your negative cells, and again from the BMS to the negative post on the battery, and the same with the positive. So the lugs here say that they're capable of a 100 amp draw, so that's well within the 95 spec. And the wiring is, what do we got here? Looks like it's capable, doesn't say, it is, the gauge is quite covered. Maybe I can get it on the positive side. It's an 8 gauge wiring, so 2 of, well within the specs needed for the 95 amp draw as well. Hey, so as you'll see here, I've got to pull this off. Here are 4 screws that hold the BMS into place, followed by the temp sensor wire. So we'll do some testing on this on the next video with a few other things I'll be doing to show what I'm doing to get this up and going. And obviously there's the balancing wire plug as well. So we'll get started by doing these 4 screws for the BMS, which I will use the power tool for at a relatively low speed, not to damage anything. So not only that, I'll also do the screws holding on the negative wires. 1, 2, so let's move that earth away from there, and then we shall undo these 2 down here. well. So they're held on by a decent little nut. Don't know if you can see that there, might be a bit blurry. So that with a square washer, just to make up for the holes inside these, because as they're only it's like an M4 screw, but an M8 hole. So the square washer on the end. Other than that, what I might do now is I will pull apart, hopefully, this here, because to get this out can be a bit of a pain. So I'll undo the positive off the lid here. So these normally also come with covers over the top, but I've obviously had them off just to protect the cells there normally. Rubber caps. Okay, so we'll undo the balance wire. So, and the temp sensor. So I haven't found too much info about these boards, unfortunately. I couldn't find too much on them, but just looking at them, they seem like a decent build. These were, mind you, had a lot of condensation water on them when I got them, when I got these batteries. So, but they seem to be testing okay. So they've held up quite well, which I'm quite happy with. Okay. A little protective sleeve there in between the cells and the BMS. Another good thing to have. So now the fun part will be to hopefully get this battery out of the box to show you just how well these are built. Oh, no, before I do that, I forgot to add. So, up here, so these are that well, they're that built that they're just held down, they're not going anywhere. So this is a prime example of a well-built battery. You definitely get your money's worth with these. So you've got 4 screws, one up here, one here, and one there, that physically hold the batteries again in place into the box here. So we'll undo those. They seem to be just again an M4 bolt with your spring washer and your standard washer underneath as well. So you know they're not going to come loose once they've got that spring washer on them. So I'd safely say you'd be able to go a fair bit off-roading and these will handle it without a problem at all. Okay, it's time to pull it out. Hopefully. And we have it. So here is the battery. So here you have the box. Don't know if you can see it now. As I said, you'll have some white stuff there from the oxidation. I tried best to get that out, but as you can see inside the box, you've got all these upper plastics here. They each hold each cell from moving down the bottom as well. So these are definitely a very well constructed battery. Hence the price tag that goes with them. I think these are about the $1,600 to $1,700 mark they are, and of course 7-year warranty goes with that as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Here's a little bit more info about it. Hopefully you can see a little bit. A bit of scratch on the sticker there, but there's your 85 amp discharge charge and your 95 amp discharge. It's the S model. So 12 volt, 125 amp S, the standard, and then you'll have the BT for the Bluetooth model. You obviously 12.8 volts, 125 amp, 1800 watt hours. So, all right, let's get stuck into doing the rest of it. Okay, so as I said, each individual cell down the bottom is holding to the tray, and then again the plastic mold on top also has the individual in between each cells. I'll show you once I pull it apart. But it's then bolted down with all these bus bars and nuts. So this is the time consuming part I've done many times with testing and whatnot. So let's get started on pulling them off, shall we? Full disclosure, I've only put these on loose because I was sick of on and off tightening them up to spec, so don't be surprised if I'm getting them off way too easily. So the main thing I'm doing first here is obviously the negative leads and the positive, so they don't get in the way, touching anything, etc. I'll undo now the balance lead wires. Now this battery has been fully discharged. I'll go run through the next video on that. Will be to show how I charged them up singly, tested them, and then going to recharge, balance, charge, top to balance, and I'll show you how to basically make a lithium battery if you were from scrap and a bunch of cells. So normally a lot of lithiums you see out there, 100 amp, have basically 4 prismatic cells, 100 amp each, put in series to make the 12 volts. These actually include 5 25 amp cells in parallel, and then series in 4. So there's 5, 10, 15, 20 cells in total to make this pack up. So there's a lot of work goes into one of these batteries. So first bus bar is just on the positive here. Seems to be made of some sort of possibly stainless or something like that. It's probably a couple of mil thick. Quite strong for what they are. They do a good job. I haven't actually tested whether it's alloy or anything like that. Probably get me magnet out and I can check that one day, but at the moment I have not. So that's your first one. It just holds your first row of positives. Then you've got the other two that are the part of the series joining. You'll have to go to the positive and the negative. So there are a lot of nuts that hold all this together. So yes, it is very time consuming to dismantle one of these. There's your next one here. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. 10 straight up on that piece. You got 5 up on there. So you 10, 20, 30. You got 40. 40 of these little bad boys to get off. It's all fun. So they're in a M8 with a 10mm head on them. So that's for us Aussies at home in the metric system. About a 3/8 head in the Imperial. So like I said, the reason I'm doing this is I got them cheap. If I was paying $1,700, honestly, I wouldn't be pulling them apart. Not to void a warranty, 7 years. Something did happen to go wrong, you could say goodbye to it. The warranty, that is. So yes. Pulling another one, so you just pull each one off just to be on the safe side, so if a nut just happens to fall between the two, it's not arcing out, of course. Something you don't want to happen. We've all been there. For the guys that have done it, we've all done it. Accidents happen, we're only human. So the 4 big ones in the middle are the ones that are drawing these in series. So you got the positive to the negative. Okay. 2 more. Okay. That one's off. And the last one is off. Like I said, there's your big 4 plates here. There's a few of them and a couple of you 2 that only hold the 5 holes on. Right, now with ease, hopefully, this plastic top will come off. I also don't want to mess these up as I've tested them. Again, I'll explain in the next video what happens from there. So you'll see that I have labelled some of them with numbers written. That's my own thing. So, right. Here is what you'll find inside. This is a 25 amp. Brand is Top Band. 3.2 volt, 80 watt hour. Don't know if you can see though. Got a bit of light reflection going on here. There we go. So that's them. They are, gotta say, very well built. Do I have a downfall to it? Maybe, and that's just me. Most prismatics I see seem to have a coating with the heat shrink. These do not. They do still seem to carry power. So, prime example. So at the moment hopefully we can read something from here. Fingers crossed you guys can see that. I can't see because I've got a bit of a thing in the way on mine, but it should show up on yours. So as a prime example, let's turn that to volts. I've got a voltage here of 3.34. Turns out I have charged them up. 3.34 on the actual terminals. But if I leave my positive on the terminal and put the negative onto the part of the battery, the cell itself, I still get a reading. While it's not as high, it's still at 3 volts. So that says to me that it's still got live power. Being only on their side, I don't see an issue. I just personally would have liked to see them covered. But that's just me. So other than that, as you'll see, like I explained earlier, I'm keeping these in order. That is the oxidization of the water that got in. So it was submerged. Being one that you can pull apart, they're not fully sealed like your other ones are. Has got the oxidization. I've tried to clean off the best of I can. So the water got up a little bit there. It's just been sitting in them. It was a gamble I was going to take. I can pretty much almost tell you now it's very well paid off. I've done a test on these, every single one, not this battery, sorry, this one over here. Each cell in that one has pulled over 24 amps on each cell, between 24 to 24 and a half-ish amps per cell, so that'll come back quite well. This battery might have been submerged longer. The reason why they could be down is the BMS had gotten wet, could be shorting somewhere, draining them, etc, etc. So these have come back anywhere between 22 and 24 and a half amps. So these cells will go through a system, which I'll do in my next video. I'll show you how to do it and have them pair up in the parallel. So you're trying to make them evenly as matched as possible. And that may get me about 119, 120 amps out of this battery, which is still quite well. They are about 2.5 years old. So I'll show you how you can sort of figure that out. Right, so on every one of these sealed batteries, you are going to have a serial number. So you get a bit of the lighting there. You've got your 2020 at the beginning. Where's my finger? Here we go. So that says that battery was produced in 2020. That's the 12th month and the 9th. So 9th of the 12th, 2020, these were manufactured. So probably by the time they get on a boat back here, because obviously made in China, you won't find a lithium theoretically made here. They will be assembled in Australia, but the cells will obviously, and pretty much the parts, are made in China. Assembled, designed here, some stuff. These are fully made in the China, but of the A grade cells. These are A grade cells. You get A grade, you get some lower qualities, and then you've got obviously second hand cells, which you see in a lot of cheaper lithiums. Sometimes the way you can find out if they're second hand is some of the cells, which these do not have, a QR code on them. If it's scratched off, it usually means it's second hand, so they don't want you to know the info of stuff like that, when it was made, etc. Okay. Onto the size of the box for those playing at home that want to know. So it'll basically come the same size as a 120 amp AGM lead acid battery. Direct drop-in replacement. Obviously you'll need the lithium charger to go with this. So size, playing at home. The widest bit, I can stick this on here. This is plastic. So from the top, I don't know if you'll notice, but there's a slight drop down here on here. So we're going to go from the top where it's a bit wider, and you're looking at just over 315mm long. So within the spec, I think about 320 to 325. I think you'll see one of your 120s at. The width from the top again is 165mm. Let's add the lid on top of here. When I put this back together, I will be sticking some glue in. I'll see if I'll show you in the next video where it is. I usually use it when I'm doing a repair on a mobile phone to seal it back up for the waterproofing. Okay, so the height excluding the terminal is, you're looking at about 215mm. If you were to add a terminal, again, that may change depending on how much stuff you add and how long the bolt you go. So, for instance, it's down to where it needs to go. Top of the terminal, you probably add about 10mm to that measurement. So 225, I think it was. Yeah. About 225 to the top of the bolt. Right, so one thing I've missed, this will be the last thing I show you on here, and that was obviously the plastic cover. So you've got your holes here for your studs of your terminals to go through, your 4 holes that hold the plastic into the battery. You got 1, 2, 3, and 4 down here. These ones will hold the BMS in place as well. Flip it around, and as you can see, the same thing on the bottom of the plastic box. You got these indents here that go in between each cell. So you know the cell is going to be sitting in this rectangle here. It's not going to move out. These, I've got to say, out of the few lithiums I've pulled apart, these are the best built. I will admit, I haven't pulled apart the most highest of priced lithiums. You know, these do cost money, so a lot of us don't want to start paying, you know, $1,200-1,300 for a battery just to rip it apart. This is my first video, don't make money off it yet. So, yeah, I haven't done an Enderdrive. I'd like to also start testing iTech World. Kings has already got a test out on their batteries. They seem well built, but they look like they've got second-hand cells in them. I've done a few. I've done a Moby battery that contained pouch cells, 135 amp, pulled no more than 95 from new. So there's your false claim straight up, which you would expect from a Moby. They're a cheap battery. I've pulled apart an old Fusion battery. I've got one here actually still in front of me. These are the older models of the Fusion. So it's quite an old one. This one hasn't been opened. One I did had been. It contained prismatic cells. I believe, by memory, they were 9 amp cells. So you had 10 of them, which really only made 90 amp. I haven't done a proper test on it yet. It is the old cells, so I can't vouch for the new models. Well built again, they were. Didn't have Bluetooth. I've also pulled apart some very atrocious batteries that contain just your cells, your cylindrical cells. Again, they didn't have covers over the batteries like these guys did. I think they had 7 per pack and 7 cells, and it was inside another metal casing, then inside a battery. It's pretty full on. But that was before I started doing videos, so unfortunately you guys have missed them, but hopefully I'll get some more of other stuff in. They were old, so I didn't want to get them in case the new models were different. Is one thing to look at. So this is a project a mate and I were working on. This contains now the pouch cells from the Moby. I don't like pouch cells personally, but I'm reusing them. I stuck a bit of BMS in it and we stuck an active balancer inside. So this is going to be basically a portable one for camping. I've done and plugged on, I've got a couple of 12 volt sockets here, which is good, and then a couple of USBs here, that one there, that one there. It's got a couple of USB 3 and USB-C, one USB-C port on each, so 4 USB 3 and 2 USB-Cs to use. On this side here I also have a couple of Anderson plugs, so solar input, fridge, etc. Whatever you can use off the Anderson is good. They run off a 50 amp fuse, MIDI's fuses are the way to go. Anything over 20 amps, I usually like to go a MIDI fuse, tighter connection. You don't get the melting, which I'll hopefully show you happens on a blade fuse with a loose connection. So the only ones I've got blade connections are the USBs because they're under the 20 amps. Decent blade fuse, under 20 amps, you shouldn't have any of the melting issues, one would hope. Okay, so that's all from me. I will be putting up another video soon of me rejigging this pack. I'll show you how I've done it, what website I've used to help me with this, putting it together, and then I'll be fully charging it. I'll be sticking an active balancer on, which I do have. Yeah, so I just personally like to stick one of the active balancers on so I know it's always going to stay balanced. I don't know if the water's done any proper damage with the cell outs, with the BMS, maybe shortening them and dropping cells lower than others, and now making them unbalanced. So active balancer here, wires that go with it. There's a couple of these, I've got one more on the way, this is just a spare one I had. So active balancer here, work out a way to put that inside the battery and have them hooked up to the cells so they'll stay balanced all the time. If I do get annoyed with the non-Bluetooth thing, I'll probably get a Bluetooth BMS. Like I said, I couldn't find too much info on these ones, so I'd like to use the ones that they use in the Invictas, but can't find too much info about them, therefore I can't find where to purchase them. Trade secret, who knows. Right, I'll leave that with yous. Like and subscribe, please. First video, like to try and get this up and running. Trying to teach you guys a little bit about 12 volt, what to do, what not to do. Lithium, AGMs, why is lithium better than AGM, basically. Test a few gear out for you guys, so before you go ahead and purchase it, I'll be the dummy. I'll purchase stuff, cheap, expensive. We'll see what goes there and how they perform. Until next time, cheers.